What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad Sean, and today on Reactions to the Classics we're going to be taking a look at Bruce Springsteen's fourth record, Darkness on the Edge of Town. We, way long ago, did Born to Run.
It seems like forever ago now.
Yeah, Born in the USA. Really enjoyed those and just wanted to go into another classic Bruce record. So, if this is your first time stopping by the channel, we appreciate it, y'all. Here at Reactions to the Classics, we take a look back at some of the most classic albums of all time, do a detailed track-by-track review of them, and just like today, it's usually our first time hearing the record. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button, and if you'd like to link up with us more, we have our Facebook and Patreon down below. But all that to say, let's get into these quick facts.
Yeah, it's his fourth studio album, released in June of 1978. It's number 150 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time, despite the fact it didn't produce any hit singles. One of them was barely in the top 30, and the other one fell outside the top 40. It stayed on the charts for 97 weeks. Now, what is weird is Bruce was the biggest star in the world, arguably, in 1975, with Born to Run on the cover of Newsweek and Time at the same time. And then he waited 3 years to make another album, which is this album. The reason why, he was in a dispute with Mike Apple, his manager, who he still was friends with. And that's a long story that I don't have time to get into, but basically, he fought it out. He was only getting 10% of his royalties for his songwriting and his singing. When he finally comes back in the studio, this is what he produces. These songs are a lot more introspective, Trey, a lot more
Definitely.
Intellectual. He started to become more politically aware. He had kept the band together and they were still touring this whole time.
This continued the Four Corners approach that was on Born to Run. So each side starts off with a song that instills some hope and just to overcome. We start with Badlands on the first side, and then The Promised Land on side 2, and then the ending tracks are talking about how even when you have all that hope, sometimes the circumstances can take you out, with Racing in the Street and the self-titled Darkness on the Edge of Town.
And then the cover is interesting to me. It always makes me laugh when I see it, Trey, because it just looks like, I'm like, why is this cover, like, he just looks like he's pissed or he's just confused. But after researching this, it was at the house of Frank Stefanko, who was a photographer, and he just took it in his house. And Bruce said what he loved about it is he said, that's the guy who's singing these songs.
Got that leather jacket.
Yeah, he said Frank had a way of stripping away all your celebrity and just getting at your essence. And he goes, that's what this album was about for me. It was about my essence. So that takes us to the first track, Badlands, and this thing is tremendous. Basically just starts out just like an E Street Band. It's got this drum just kicking. The very end of it has a great tenor sax from Clarence, and it's the story of a man who is down on his luck, but he's going to keep pushing through to try to persevere, because unless you do that, you're never going to get any further.
Yeah, we see that from the lyric, spend your life waiting for a moment that just don't come. Well, don't waste your time waiting. Pretty much carpe diem, seize the day, baby. And this was released as a single, only reached number 42. I thought this was just a banger of a track. We just like Born to Run with Thunder Road. I like how we start off immediately. You can tell that classic E Street Band sound, and just it sets the thematic tone for the record that just continues on. And we go to the next track, Adam Raised A Cain.
Yeah, which is totally different than really anything else on this album. It's got this hard rocking, just banging. Obviously, it's got biblical overtones. Bruce is the Cain. He feels like the outcast in his family. He said it's kind of an emotional autobiography because him and his dad had that kind of relationship. He actually said later on he wrote a lot of the songs back then to talk to his dad because they didn't actually talk much in person. So this song just so sticks out on this 10-track album. I enjoyed it. It's not one of my favorites, but boy, it's powerful. And it might be the one that sticks in my head, right? Because it's more hard rocking with the chorus.
Exactly. The one word that came to me when listening to this, which is passion. There was a mix of anger, maybe some uneasiness in here as well. I think it's interesting that you were talking about the introspection themes that were coming through here, and a lot of these songs deal with that. Factory later on also deals with themes with his father. So I thought it was probably a little bit therapeutic for Bruce to write this, and very interesting topic. Gonna go on to track number 3, Something in the Night, which could be directly addressing the 3-year lawsuit he fought for that you were talking about earlier. The line that really brings that home is you're born with nothing and better off that way. As soon as you've got something, they send someone to try and take it away. We have a beautiful piano intro to...
Yeah, about a minute 15 before we start singing, and some Bruce just kind of...
Yeah, it just kind of hums along a little bit, and I enjoyed this one. Maybe, you know, kind of in the middle for me on this. It's tough. It's tough coming after those first two tracks for me, but I mean, I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, one of my favorites, but most of these songs I could categorize in that. It really worked for me. I thought the instrumental part of this, a definite different dichotomy than on the first two songs, and kind of what you know, what you're in for. The next song is also different.
Yes, for sure. Candy's Room.
Candy's Room. And you can take from the lyrics, he's probably hooking up with a prostitute. We don't really know for sure, but...
Or at least fantasizing about
fantasizing about it, one of the two. But take that out of it, the song is very interesting. You have Max just doing a wonder. His drumming just stands out.
Absolutely. It's a big contrast to the rest of the song because we have almost like a spoken
word almost, yeah, in it, and you've got this that nice,
just constantly going
at the start. It sets a pacing musically that isn't there necessarily with the lyrics, but it works. It somehow you mix all this stuff together and it works for me. I mean, it's not one of my favorites on here, but a very interesting song musically.
Yeah, this is one that definitely grew on me through repeated listens. Initially, I was like, I don't know about this, but once you really hone in on the drumming and just kind of the whole structure of the song, I mean, it would be my least favorite track on the A side, but that's just
mine too. But
that's just because it's so strong. It's still a very solid track, and it takes us right into a classic, one of my favorites. Racing in the Street. Here the narrator has a dead-end job, but his pride and joy is that Chevy 69 that he and his partner Sonny built. They race it to win money and gamble against similar racers.
Yeah, and Bruce uses drag racing or racing back, uses on Born to Run and Thunder Road. And he uses it basically to symbolize that men want to kind of escape. So that's something I can control. I can go race and I can control what's going on. You said it's one of your favorites on here. This, I have a hard time picking a favorite. This works really well with the closer, Darkness on the Edge of Town, which we'll get into in a little while. But man, this song I found myself revisiting several times.
Oh, absolutely. You have some of Bruce's best lyrics.
Yes.
I mean, he's just obviously a fantastic songwriter. He notes some guys, they just give up living and start dying little by little, piece by piece. Some guys come home from work and wash up and then go racing in the streets. Another theme that's touched on here is just the drag of everyday life, of work, clocking in, putting in your 8-9 hours, and then some guys come home and just lounge around and just wait for the drag the next day. But Bruce, he's going to come home and do what he loves, go racing in the street. I think it's important to note he talks later on in the song about how he met his girl. She's in that same lifestyle, and then eventually though she starts to step away from that, but he has to keep going.
Yeah, she's waiting for him when he comes home.
He keeps racing, and then we'll continue that story in the concluding track.
Fantastic story.
I thought just the storytelling on it was tremendous and a great way to end side A. Then we start off side B with The Promised Land.
Yeah, and this song came about when Bruce and Stevie Van Zandt from the E Street Band, his main man, and Eric Miola, who shot the cover to Born to Run, they traveled in August 1977 to Utah and Nevada. They rented a 1965 Galaxy, and they drove all over. They spent all this time just driving around and just being normal dudes. So when he comes back, he writes this song about his experiences and comes in the studio and they lay it down.
He said it is about how we honor the community and the place we came from. He also noted that elements of the song reflected his own situation when he wrote it. He was unable to record the new record due to that lawsuit. Felt a little bad for letting the other members of the band down. And the song reflects that sense of despair, but also of resilience and determination to transcend limitations that he was feeling at the time.
Yeah, and like most of his songs, the story follows a young blue-collar worker who works for his dad in an auto mechanic shop. The working man's plight has taken its toll on the protagonist. He feels like the life he is leading is giving him nothing in return. And I think we've all been there at times in our jobs, especially. Because of this, he wants to leave its ruins in the dust and head out for his own, quote, promised land, Trey. He's just looking for somebody to go with him.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite one-liners in this whole record is in here where he says, "Mr. I ain't a boy, I'm a man." I think that sums up what a lot of people in my age, kind of early to mid-20s, where you're an adult technically, but some people still just view you as
a kid.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that kind of summed up a lot of his themes. Yeah, exactly.
No, not me. That's going to bring us to Factory. There's not a lot of lyrics on this, but Bruce does it in a fantastic way. It's about his dad again. You alluded to that earlier. His dad didn't work in a factory, drove a bus. It's the same difference. It's better to write a song about a factory than a bus. There's a lot more material you can use. But how it gives men their identities, yet takes everything from them, and how it affects their mind, their family life, everything in between. And I think for that, it's one of those classic Bruce songs as far as content, and it really worked for me.
Oh, me too. I think it's a very relatable track to the blue collar working man. There was a haunting line at the end where the workers coming home said somebody's going to get hurt tonight because they're just so beat down at work. Then a lot of times, unfortunately, that comes off into the wife and the kids coming back home. So I think it's a very relatable track, as I said earlier, that many people can glean from, either from themselves or from their parents or whatnot. And then we go into a more upbeat track after that, into Streets of Fire. This is probably my second favorite track.
Yeah, I probably agree with you there.
It's just powerful, man. It starts off with a great kind of easy little intro, and then the first time Bruce says Streets of Fire, which is
it's
explosion of sound.
Awesome, man.
I loved it. And again, we go into the street, the racing type of theme, and eventually in the last verse he mentions that his only friends are strangers. He's just pretty much wandering around. He's a little bit down on his luck, but hey, he's gonna make friends with pretty much the outcast of society. So I thought it was just a fantastic rocking tune.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to it. He's very powerful on this one, as you said.
Absolutely.
Like, it's a slow roll, and then that Streets of Fire, and it just gets you going, man. So yeah, definitely a standout track in here, and it brings us to Prove It All Night. It was the first single release, Trey, which is interesting to me. I like this song, but it's not even one of my top 5 favorites.
I'd agree with that. An interesting choice for...
Yeah, it hit number 33 on the charts, and coming off Born to Run, it's... that was difficult, but it didn't affect the album sales, and the bottom line is that's where the money's at. Prove It All Night is kind of what it sounds like. It's about two lovers, and there's some optimism there, and it's fine for me.
There's also, again, we got that theme of having to give up something, to sacrifice something, to gain something in return. Again, I think it's sandwiched between two of the better tracks on here, which probably skews my bias of it a little bit. I mean, it's still a really solid tune.
Definitely.
But, it doesn't prepare us for Darkness on the Edge of Town, man.
Whew.
The closing track, a continuation, as we were mentioning, of Racing in the Streets.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that he tied them together. So it's just brilliant. We were talking about this the other night, Trey. It's the beauty of the album itself, guys, and what we've lost in the Spotify and Apple Music world. I mean, you talked about the four corners of the way he put the albums together. You had to think about this stuff. George Martin really thought it out for the Beatles as well. What am I going to start and end with each side?
Because sequencing is huge.
Huge, because you may end that side, and the person may leave it on the turntable because we actually had to get up and turn them over, and it may be there for a while. So that's the last thing you left them with, and then what are you going to start them with? And just brilliant to actually continue on the story from the end of side A.
Exactly, and here we see his racing habit has just further alienated him. His wife ended up leaving him, and he kind of left without any money as well. Yeah. He's now on the Darkness on the Edge of Town, kind of a dual thing where you're with kind of the outcast of society, and also darkness within you that you have to overcome. Again, it's a theme that's been running rampant. I don't know how many times he mentioned the word darkness in these various tracks. We haven't mentioned every one of them, but seemingly in every single track, that theme just keeps coming back up, and it comes to a head as the record closes. And I just thought it was fantastic the way it brought forth the album, wrapped it up in a nice little bow, and at the end, he decides, hey, I'm going to go on top of that hill. I'm going to keep racing and enjoying what I can in this life. That'll take us right into our favorite tracks.
10 tracks on here. It's hard for me to pick my favorite tracks because there's so many. I mean, Badlands, Darkness on the Edge of Town would be my favorite. Something in the Night.
I'm going to go with Streets of Fire. I'm going to go with Racing in the Street, and probably Darkness on the Edge of Town. And that'll take us to our overall score. I thought this was, again, another hit from Bruce. In my free time, I listened to his debut record a couple months ago, and I thought that was really, really solid, too. I mean, he's just such a great songwriter, has a unique voice. It's not particularly like drop dead tremendous, but it's powerful. It brings forth emotion, and that's what I look for in a singer more than being able to hit every note.
Me too.
So I thought this record was fantastic. I'm going to go an 8.75.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. I love Bruce. Ironically enough, I'd never listened to this album. I had heard Badlands and Prove It All Night just a little bit because they're on some greatest hits packages, but I never really set up shop on them because I didn't know them and just kind of rolled on. And I wasn't as smart back then about music as I hopefully am now going through this journey. But for me, it's a 9.0. I mean, you said it. I mean, as far as songwriting, he's in rarefied air. And this album takes you on a journey. You got to listen to the whole thing through. It's not pick a track out. And listen to it over and over, and it'll really grow on you. I can guarantee you that.
Absolutely, man. Loved it. And let us know in the comments below your favorite track, your thoughts on Darkness on the Edge of Town. Dad, appreciate all the research as always.
Yeah, next up for Bruce will be the old double album, The River.
Yes, exactly. That'll be interesting to dive into that as well. And if you enjoyed this video, y'all be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. We upload multiple times a week in a variety of genres. And until next time, y'all, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, my friends, and we will see ya.